So, the one thing that I would like to talk about now is power rankings. Obviously, we have my team as S tier because undefeated and all that. No, I don't want to rank my own team, so just put them in S tier. But here's some thoughts. In A tier, we got Scoop Jackson, Venom, K-Stigs, and Strilling. In B tier, we have Off, Aragorn, Vagina Clappers, Doc Ock, and the Girthy Sacks, Snlork, Killjoy, Son of Paint, I guess Son of Paint twice. Um, then after that, in C tier, we have Dude Wipes, Hobbs, Akiri, Potato Heaven, 222, 4 Boosted, and Stars. And then D tier, we have Breakable and Jihad. So the reasoning goes such, you could kind of read through it. I'll just kind of summarize really quick. Scoop is kind of like a Maverick team to me. I'm not sure if they're going to be A tier for long, but they definitely have the potential to stay up there. We scrimmed them once, and it definitely wasn't an easy game. Granted, in game one, we definitely were experimenting a lot, but they also said in game two they were experimenting, so who knows. Dude Wipes is kind of a problem. Can they do good if their mid is not having Viper? And then Jihad I put in D tier because you lost to a very low tier mid, and I don't know, just felt weird. 2 games in a row too. Breakable, I think they lost to Kobe or something like that, so that's always bad news. And then Aragorn and Off were honestly the two people that I just put into B tier, kind of like by default because they versed each other, but they both did pretty good against each other. But I haven't seen them outside the vacuum. Aragorn has a uncharacteristically very like strong dual offlane. Han best team obviously. Akiri seemed okay, but I think they could do better. Detato is very symmetric, and then I don't know. It's kind of like because they have an asymmetry in their lanes, a team could exploit that. And then Vagina Clappers is like the opposite. They're very well distributed on their side lanes. They have a strong player of a weak player, and then a middle of the road middle. So I rated them accordingly. And then 2222 feels moderate strafe but lacking draft strafe. So, um, yeah, these guys are the ones that beat Zrock, I believe. Um, and basically, I felt like they should have done a little bit better, in my opinion, against the matchups they got. I don't know. It's hard to tell because, on one hand, actually, here, hold on. Let me make sure. Two 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 two. Oh no, sorry, I mixed them up. 222 is versus Venom. That's my bad. So going back to the thing, 222. They ended up beating Venom 1 game, and it's one of the games I kind of analyzed, and I feel like they would have lost in most situations. So either Venom is very strong, or 222 is not as strong as some of these other teams. That's why I put them in C tier. Zrock, basically, they have a strong safe lane team, but I don't know. I feel like their mid might be their nail in the coffin. They probably have one of the weaker, maybe along with Jihad, but they kind of have pizzazz, so I kept them out of D tier and kept them up here, I believe. Yep, right here. Doc Ock, um, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to rate these guys as well, so I just put them in B tier. They did pretty good against Zrock, so we'll see next week. Snlork, I feel like they are solid enough, but they might have some issues with. They might have issues with the fact that it seems to be that their draft revolves around their carry player, and then Kstig's actually beat them twice in a row, and I don't know. They seemed pretty strong, but on the other hand, like this is the first week, so take this power ranking as you will. Killjoy is probably my underdog favorite. They seem like a power friendship team. Feel like they have the potential to go into the playoffs, but I don't know how deep they can make it because I have this feeling that if they get figured out, they might have some trouble. You know, we versed them. They were a fun team to play against. Son of Paint. Yeah, these guys. Actually, shit. Did I mix it up? But no, we did plan to kill it. Killjoy, didn't we? I'm going crazy. I think, yeah, we did play into them. Son of Paint actually is a team that also relies on people playing into them. They seem pretty solid overall. Probably going to make the playoffs, so yeah, I put them into B tier. And then Strilling, I think is like the dark horse. I think that their carry player, from what I've seen, has a system, and if you throw his system into disarray, you might win. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed the content. And then after this, you'll get to see my very apathetic casting, aka just me watching some video and commenting over it. So with this game, in general, from the rip, I actually like Dyer's draft a little bit more. The reason becomes apparent later in the draft. Basically, the Dyer end up snatching up a timber saw in the last bit, and this is actually something I like to say, is that whenever you see a double strength, or in this case almost triple strength core set, right, like we know between these 4 strengths someone's going to go fucking carry or, you know, off lane. They're not just going to be supports. You want to get a timber saw. I think the Radiant should have banned timber saw, and then they would have won the draft here, but they didn't, and instead they gave it up. And I think Radiant were going to lose this game if it hadn't been for some clutch, like, mechanical choices by them throughout the game. So in terms of laning, I actually think that Kunkka did pretty good in this lane throughout the whole laning phase. You can see, like, obviously the first 3 levels or so, Kunkka does break even with a timber saw, but he should probably fall behind as the game progresses. In order to offset that, you could always rotate, which is something he ends up trying to do a few times. But I also think that Dyer could have blocked this camp probably against a Kunkka. A lot of Kunkkas, especially when they get that level 3 Tidebringer, will start hitting that camp. So let's just skip ahead a little bit. The other lanes aren't quite as exciting. This guy ends up getting forced out of the lane. The Snapfire Mars is just a very strong duo, and once they kind of start rolling, you have no choice but to basically leave. You can see right here he's got 21 last hits, 10 denies, and this guy's only got 16 last hits, 1 deny. So I don't know if it's at this exact moment he chooses to leave, but he is going to go hit the jungle. Yep, and now Silencer's left here to sap experience. Up top, Dyer gets a good trade. Venom Assassin is actually doing pretty solid for a high pressure lane, but their last hits are not that great. You can see right here, Spearbreaker and him are trading even on that end, but obviously getting kills helps make up that point. Kunkka does the rotation I talked about to try to make sure that he doesn't fall too far behind. I'm not sure if he would have died even if they stunned his teleport right there. And this is one of the biggest pains in the world as a mid, if you rotate out of your lane and you don't get anything for it, which Dyer did not. The Dyer actually have a pretty big advantage here in the sense that their Wraith King decided to go jungle. But it feels like Dyer doesn't pressure that advantage enough. This guy's hellbent on getting this Lotus Orb, which is great against Silencer, but it doesn't really help you stay alive other than just the raw armor. I think that a Hooded Defiance for the magic damage from Radiant, and then Yules would have been fine. Maybe a Value Plate Mail. But I don't know. Yules is just so good against Kunkka, it stops him from being able to X you back. Overall, Venom played very well, I feel like, in this game. He wasn't given a lot. I think that they probably should have switched lanes here, because you can see this guy's really not doing enough damage here, and in fact the Dire actually have their tower pressured more. If Timbersaw was sitting under this tower instead of PA, I think that they wouldn't be able to do anything. PA could be sitting mid, pushing it out, and then jungling here in between. But instead, they end up getting ganked here by a roll. It's just a little, you know, inefficiency in my opinion. Timbersaw does come in and get a kill on, no, that's a different rotation. I think it kind of naturally happens here though too. PA goes mid, like I said, and Timbersaw stays top. Oh, Mars kind of had a flub here. He got really, really greedy. He was basically shoving this lane for health using Soul Ring the whole time. Got too low and then got killed by a simple Q out of Silencer. I think also, like, other than the traditional just upscale them approach, Dire could have went like a Desolator into BKB timing with the PA and just use the unkillable nature of Timbersaw. You can see right there, magic is kind of the story of the game in the early stages of the game. Kunkka's really tanky, but if you stun lock him and he gets Snapfire ulted, he's gonna burn. And then right now, Dire carry and Radiant carry kind of trading farm, while the other four are participating. I don't know. Whenever I see carry, I think this early stage stuff is the biggest mistakes he makes until late game on PA. I don't really see a reason for him to keep coming back here. Just leave it be. Let other people handle the lane. Mars also died on that rotation. So now here comes the second mistake from the Dire, which I think otherwise their draft was just so advantageous with this Timbersaw last pick, is while Phantom Assassin is choosing to actively farm, they are thinking, we could put up the pressure on the game, right? So they use a smoke and push out here, get this guy. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. It's a later stage of the game. This is good by Dire. They have a similar rotation later. That is a big mistake by them. You can see just every team fight, even with a no Deso PA, they're just doing really good. I don't know. I really think that Deso would have been the pick, but I still think they did pretty good overall. All right, let me go ahead, skip ahead. Yes, here's one of their mistakes. Timbersaw up to this point has 0 deaths. He's like feeling pretty unkillable, but he has no Yules. There, once you get stuck in this position on Timbersaw, you can't escape out of a like duo like this. This guy will always X you, and this guy will always snowball you or keep you in place. So you can see right here, stunned, X'd, then charged, and he just gets whittled down, and then his support dies for his mistake too. I think stuff like that is kind of like death by inches from the Dire. Even though all these mistakes are happening, the 1 or 2 big fights actually benefit the Dire quite a bit. I think Kunkka, other than his initial laning stage, kind of had a sloppy game. There was that pick off for no reason. He has a later one under here. And I think this is one of those rotations. Can't remember if they swing bottom or they die top. Yeah. So right here, they, well, you know, whenever they get these picks, they feel pretty strong. But the reality of it is that Phantom Assassin's here. He has nothing to teleport to. And even though Wraith King is here, he can definitely teleport to this fight. And Timbersaw feels pretty strong, but he realizes he's actually not that high health. Panics a little bit. They actually do pretty good recovering the fight for a little bit, but just the proxy damage of magic also just kind of end up killing him down. Like if you slow this down, right? He gets whittled down by physical, but right here they're not attacking him still. He gets hit by that, he gets hit by the charge, and now he gets bursted down. I don't know, it was just a big mistake. And this is why I was saying I think the Deso BKB build would have been better. The game kind of slows down for a little bit except for this fight right here. This is another rotation. Remember when I was mistook it? They were smoked here as well, I believe. They run down, go onto this Rave King. Takes them quite a bit of time to kill him, and there's a big teleport here by now. And they start panicking, running away. And remember, he doesn't have BKB. He's got Battle Fury and I think a Deso on the way right now. Yeah. If he had the Deso BKB, I think this fight would have been different. They kill the Mars right off the rip. And even though he does do quite a bit of damage, you know, Radiant have a Aegis. Look at this health he's running around with. If he had the BKB, it wouldn't have mattered. But Radiant ended up taking that fight pretty handedly. It, like, by handedly, I mean, like, you know, their 2 cores lived. And I think that's just demonstration that the strength of the Dire draft, you know, even with the Aegis, they were still able to trade pretty well. 4 for 5 if you count the Aegis. I hate the term, it was their game to lose, but this whole game really felt like it was Dire's game to lose. Also, something to note, when a Phantom Assassin's on their Dire team, the Roshan potential is just so good. Honestly, I think another mistake is perhaps the fact that despite Mars's really strong open, he's only trading a little bit above the Spear Breaker. I feel like he should have another 1,000, 2,000 net worth over him. No Yules means that this guy can safely do that combo. Spearbreaker bullshit emerges. But BKB magic ends up keeping him alive for now. The Rave King damage is just so high. But once again, Phantom Assassin doesn't feel comfortable blinking into this stuff. So they do get Timber Saw, but I feel like they could have gone more if Phantom Assassin was able to fight there. But it doesn't really matter. He goes and I think they end up getting Aegis pretty soon. I don't have the timer. I don't know why, but this is the rush potential though with this draft. There it is. Ah, yes. I think this is a retrospective mistake. They go in and they feel like they can burst this Timbersaw, which is kind of true, but I think that this was a panic moment by Tusk. Everyone on Dire is basically silenced after this, and he pulls everyone into his snowball, but he doesn't release it until way after, which means Timbersaw can walk away. This fight gets delayed long enough for Pink to get in here with his BKB. And then the Dire, actually, this is probably their best mechanical play, end up kiting this battle round long enough for the crits to come out. Nice bottle sip. That one attack wouldn't have killed him, but it must hurt, especially with that miss. And then they managed to struggle bus and kill this Roshan here. Oh yeah, except for Spearbreaker, the Spearbreaker things here. He gets a charge off because they never dewarded this. I think he potentially could have stolen that, honestly, like here. If he just used dust, I think, yeah, he had it, but he didn't get rid of the dust. I think that would have turned the whole game this early on. But needless to say, this was a really good trade for the Radiant. And here's a big mistake also by Kunkka I was talking about earlier. He was playing a little sloppy. He didn't have a good matchup, but just in general, I felt like this was another mistake by him. Why are you out here, sir? Like, 3 of your team is dead. You just saw the Dire push in. Like, just use your X mark combo. They don't have Yules last I checked. And this guy feels like he's, I don't know, he maybe misclicks with his Silver's Edge right there. If he actually hit PA there and she blinked in, she wouldn't have killed the silencer very quickly, and PA would have died. This was a good fight by Pink, if I remember. Gets rid of the superior stun players as quickly as he can. This is really unfortunate for Radiant because they are all stuck without their BKBs inside a place where they can't go onto this PA. Even though she's got no BKB as well, so they're forced to hit the Timber Saw. The break on the Wraith King really hurts. Actually wonder. I think he could have blinked here. Oh no, he let himself get hit by the chain. Honestly, not the worst out of the Radiant there. But doesn't matter. I think the draft is just showing that it's hard for Radiant to do anything. Okay, this is, I think, one of the biggest misplays by Pink right here. He gets hit by a boat. When you're playing against Kunkka, you hear the boat go off. He didn't even get torrented out of the smoke. Like here, player perspective, Dire, and then player view. You hear the Shadow Blade. Right? Why are you not BKBing? This is such a mistake on his end. He ends up BKBing at 600 health and gets bursted down. Then I think he buys back here. But with the Dire, and I think this is maybe what Mars was trying to do. Oh no, he does have it. Never mind. Oh, I think he buys back in a different fight. They end up getting a good trade except for the PA dies. Kunkka gets caught here. He sees that this lane is being pushed in. He probably should have had a read. I mean, I feel like X mark combo is all you need to do this game and you never die in that situation. But actually this ends up working out, I think, okay for them. He buys back. This always feels bad whenever you're against superior stuns on PA. Like, you use BKB and then you just can't, you know, do what you want to do. I think he ends up killing the silencer, but... And then this guy just keeps doing his bullshit charge. They get a nice pick on Mars here. But notice, they don't have control of this outpost here. I think if I was the Phantom Assassin, I probably would have left here instead of jumping back in. He sees that this is being pushed in, so he buys back. Oh, by the way, this is something I wondered about the first time I watched this, and didn't quite catch on to why this happened, but while they were doing this fight there, Wraith King was pushing this tower in. I thought it was a skeleton. This is the first time I played it through. That's actually a key component for later on. And then we saw all this. PA ends up dying right here. He sees all this pressure happening, and he buys back instead of perhaps making one of his supports buy back. And the reality of it is that these skeletons really fucking hurt, and if he let it keep going, they probably would have lost the tower. And now with this buyback down, they're in dangerous territory. If they lose him, they lose pretty much. So I actually blame Mars for this one. He should have halberded immediately if he didn't want to go in, but he let his Timbersaw take a fuck ton of damage. I also think Halberd and Bloodstone would have been better on Timbersaw this game instead of the Kyosange. So the reason why I was saying that was a mistake, and I don't know if this necessarily would change the whole outcome, but he ends up needing to use this cheese later. He also has a ton of money. I don't know why he didn't just Timbersaw chain back and then use Boots of Travel to go back. But, you know, hindsight 2020. So they're doing this pressure here, and Wraith King actually does something smart again. He comes here and shows pressure. These guys already have their base half exposed, so they have to react. And not having Yules bites him in the ass right here. They couldn't keep the Wraith King. And now with this 4 versus 3, and soon to be 5 versus 3, they end up winning the battle. The Aegis goes down. And then I think they end up getting Venom here because of the snowball. He's X now. There's nothing he can do. He has to man fight or die. And that's the end of the story. So basically, I think Dire had this game. They had control of Roshan. They just, I think, mismanaged their creep aggro bottom twice, and that led to that situation, as well as a buyback out of the PA, although it's debatable whether or not that was necessary. So we have an interesting game here in terms of draft. Basically, it makes no sense. They put up a Darkseer carry and all this stuff. There's really no point to doing any draft analysis on the Radiant side. The only thing you could think of is that Mars keeps people together. You have AoE, Vacuum, and all that crap. And then Pango kind of is your last pick to try to counter the, what's it called? The Phantom Lancer. The interesting thing that's actually pretty smart on the Dire side is the fact that this Venomancer is paired with a Clockwork, and the thing that you need to know about Veno is that he lacks a lot of stun, obviously, and just in general the capacity to keep people next to him after he ulties. And Clockwork is actually someone who excels at that. They put the Veno on the position 3. Also, the matchup as a very notorious Pango spammer. I actually, in general, don't mind going against Phantom Lancer on Pango because it's a good counter, but with the shard that this guy has and like the late game of just spamming spears out, it's really not as good as you might think. The fact is that he can constantly spam and keep the bounces, right? Because that's what it does. It causes a bounce on your Spirit Lance. And this guy has shocking amounts of mana late game. So in general, I think that Radiant do actually a really good job into this draft that they got them stuck into, even though they don't do that great in the laning phase. As you can see, Dire's up by a little bit, but Bloodseeker is kind of dominating the Mars mid. Something I thought about is that usually Mars doesn't care about like melee matchups or range matchups mid, but when you're playing Mars into a person like Bloodseeker that you can't harass out of the lane, it doesn't matter if you trade well. It just really doesn't. I don't know why he didn't just spear immediately and teleport, but he ends up trying to, kind of, I guess, tank it without teleporting out. So that's pretty much a good summation of this laning phase. Pango comes here, awkwardly lanes for a little bit. The game starts picking up tempo when Radiant realizes that their draft is really good at just grouping up as 5 and just forcing the Dire to have to fight back or run away, which is actually something that I've realized is a big weakness of Phantom Lancer early game, is the fact that he does not do well if he actually has to fight, even if he has a defusal. Like his stats nowadays, I just feel like due to power creep are just not good enough, and he gets nuked down by proxy damage. So I think maybe a better build on the Dire side would have been to just go for the Manta and just split push early and use your supports and the Venomancer wards to slow down the Radiant instead of trying to fight into it. Venomancer's problem with being a position 3 becomes apparent here as well. Pango just kind of rolls into you and you die, even though Pango botches his roll a little bit there. Bloodseeker is just dominant in terms of farm. But here's the beginning of the 5-man Dota. The Ags on the Darkseer makes everyone pretty tanky. There's actually a common plight of Bloodseeker on the core is the fact that he just runs around waiting for better blood rights. You can see this guy, like they just don't care about it. Not very good here. But he's going to turn probably ulti, maybe. Yep, and now Bloodseeker has no escape. Doesn't matter how the, fight looked before this. This guy managed to clean up 1 kill, but that's it. He manages to evade death and runs off to keep farming. But that's why I said, I think if he went Manta, he probably could have just been, pushing side lanes and farming better. He still has good, net worth and all that, but I think it could have been better. You never want to... getting 3-man hit by AA Blast is the worst. And that's all it takes. AA into the IO matchup is so suffer for IO. Bloodseeker decided not to fight there, I guess. Oh, he was dead. That's my bad. Probably shouldn't have tried to contest that Roshan. Overall, I think just the Dire draft is better and makes the game pretty easy for him. Radiant actually executes pretty well overall. I'd say one mistake perhaps is on Pangolier here. I think a maybe utility ag shard before the ags would have been okay. I don't know. I alternate on it myself. The ags is just such a big power spike into PL. But PL is about to hit heart, so I feel like it doesn't even matter. You pretty much need your team to kill him or you bust. And this is what happens actually. Like, they get this hard timing and they fight into them. Pango's rolling around here, but as soon as his roll ends, he's no longer a factor. If I was him, I would have just booked it right here. You saw that Clockwork did a hook shot earlier. Without Diffusal, you're never going to win this matchup into PL. And even then, even with Diffusal, you're probably not going to. You can see he got pretty low on mana, but I don't know. Even with the Diffusal, I don't think he loses enough mana to die. Really, the rest of this game, except for one moment, is just Radiant struggling to have an answer to all the cores of Dire. Dire decided to give up Roshan because, you know, they got picked off, and honestly, I don't blame them. You're not really scared of the Radiant. So, Pango did what's expected to a degree, but he focused too much on the Clockwork. Remember, Clockwork's position 4. He doesn't really need to die. And now they're in an awkward spot. They have no good ultimates to answer to this PL anymore. He's just gonna keep spamming his Q with his shard like I talked about earlier. And they get brought down. Pangolier ends up dying as well. I think he got hit. Yep. And that's why A sucks into this IO matchup. IO gets out with teleport. They have this Aegis, but it's on the Darkseer ultimately. It's really not a big deal. Another mistake on Radiant I feel like Pango did is that he now goes for an overwhelming blink. I don't know. Your common thought process might be like, oh, AoE damage, but really, you're Pango, you have Ags, just get like a MKB. I don't like going Basher into PL because you end up bashing illusions. So I think MKB would have been big. Get a Gleipnir, keep him locked down. That's really the only weakness to PL. Weakness for PL. You get all those items. You get a Spell Prism if you're lucky, and maybe you can do okay. So the last play of the game really that ends up happening is right here. They find this guy, get a nice silence, actually get a stun with the Marsh Spear, but still not enough. You can see how tanky this motherfucker is. His mistake is right here. He thinks he can do something, turns around, and then obviously Pango is ruptured here, but honestly, if you have damage reduction, it's really not that big of a deal, and then over time they just run him down. Something that everyone might know is that Shivas is really good as a matchup item into the heroes like Bloodseeker and Phantom Lancer, the HP reduction. IO saves them both, and this is where Dire fucks up really bad. They think they can take him down, but these three are a really bad matchup for Pango and IO together. They really can't do anything. Maybe if IO got hit by A Blast here, and then they focused IO, they could have done something, but instead, Clock walked away and the other two stayed. And then the remainder of the game is basically, in my opinion, Pangolier misusing his ultimate a few times. Guess I'm picking on Pango a little too hard, but I don't know. I feel like Mars also went perhaps too defensive. He's pretty much. I think they should have left the defensiveness on this guy right here and had Mars go like Ags with Daedalus build into the PL. I think it was probably their best chance as well with the Pango. This is the final fight really of the game. So one of the biggest complications in this matchup is that US Pango don't really always have a great opportunity to go onto PL. You can see right here his ultimate is down. And now they don't really have a way to kill PL in an extended fight. He turns with his BKB anyways and just whacks everyone down. Yeah, you have to, in this kind of matchup, you kind of have to play around the roll. And yeah, there we go. That's the end. Actually, the theme of this game is I'm very impressed by Radiant holding on that long. I feel like they were at a huge disadvantage in terms of the draft. So this is some, I don't know, Kstig's team, I guess, versus Snlork. I don't know. I'm just going to try to keep it pretty quick. So right off the rip, I guess they know each other. These bands are very specific on both sides. I'm just going to skip ahead to the solution of this draft. So you can see right here they have, I don't know why this is all buggy, but basically you have Jakiro Clockwork, Razor Lifestealer. Razor could have been played in the carry position, in my opinion, picked like a tempo in mid, but perhaps the hero pool for mid was not that broad. I know I sometimes suffer from that. And then Dyer had Grimstroke, Witch Doctor, Night Stalker, Chaos Knight. The thing that you have to notice is they don't have a real piercing through BKB thing. They have Link, but that's like contingent on being next to an enemy. So Lifestealer feels pretty safe in terms of ulting out, or I mean teleporting out before bashers. But they did pick Lifestealer into Night Stalker, which is always a pain in the ass. And as we go through this game, you'll kind of see it happen. These guys end up last picking Bristleback. It's an interesting idea. It's similar to the Alchemist pick in mid, or Medusa. The idea is basically you don't care about the enemy laner. You just try to get big. And I already mentioned about my opinion on the Razor mid, but if you do go Razor mid, this beginning with his 5-4 is what you need to keep up the whole time against the Bristle. You can never let him keep parity with your last hits, because he's going to hit the jungle and just outfarm you. Here, Lifestealer basically has a free lane. The Grimstroke and Night Stalker really can't beat him, and Jakiro is a really strong 5. Basically what it means is that even at nighttime, they're not going to have great success. And then on the off lane, they go with this like Clockwork pick, which is okay considering you have Snapfire, who's kind of one of the stronger 4s, in my opinion, kind of can flex into a 3. So the two of them can alternate on farm priority. But you can see right here, right off the rip, Bristle knows what he wants to do. He goes straight for the stack. He gets, I personally like to get both stacks in one go, but maybe he just didn't make it in time. And he only manages 2 more last hits from the initial wave, basically. It just, in my opinion, it's not enough. And you can see every time the lane pushes out, he goes back into the jungle. I think that pretty much sums up the laning phase. The big thing to notice here is that on the Dyer, they're really not scared of Bristle dying. They just kind of give him space to farm, and then they try to guard mid from pushing it too free. Chaos Knight is really their biggest vulnerability. He should try his best not to die. So in my opinion, this is kind of a big of a blunder. Basically, what ends up happening in a little bit is that Razor ends up getting caught and dying. Let me just skip ahead. Yep, right here. When you see the person have a haste, you really got to be careful or plan to teleport out. You know, it's weird because he had teleport this whole time, and in the meantime, Radiant took a fight bottom without Razor. So, I don't know. I think this was unnecessary by Radiant. They shouldn't have done that. You gotta skip ahead here. And you'll kind of see the story of the game. While Bristleback's doing whatever he wants, so is Lifestealer. Dire doesn't have a strong answer to him right now. So even though Nightstalker kind of destroys the idea of rage later on, early on Lifestealer hits really fucking hard and heals a lot off of strength heroes. So until Lifestealer can no longer just kind of like man up even without rage, they are going to have trouble dealing with him. Yeah, I don't know. Bristle does some weird movement here. I think they could have killed Razor, but he like walked around the river for some reason. We kind of skip ahead a little bit further, and what we see start happening is that Radiant actually does a pretty good job at controlling the tempo of the game for a little bit. And that's mostly because if you look at this net worth, Razor does a lot more with the net worth he has than the Chaos Knight or the CK do. One of the big problems with CK is that he's very easy to feel poor on if you don't farm well with him. That's why a lot of people who aren't comfortable with him end up getting Midas. The theme of this game, basically, let me skip ahead to a fight perhaps that shows it best. Here you go, that's a good one. Is the fact that they do have a way to deal with this Bristle with the break, but once they have no break, they don't. And then Dire have no way to really deal with this Lifestealer. You can see, without the illusions from CK, they're not doing enough to the Lifestealer right now. I feel like a Halberd would have been nice on the Dire side. And Bristle kind of runs away. Lifestealer cleans up. Yeah, and so the big mess up on the Radiant side is basically when they decide to push here. Right, somewhere about here. God, the game feels slow at 1 speed whenever this is going on. And the thing that you always want to keep in mind whenever you're playing in this situation is that you don't want to push high grounds when Roshan's about to spawn. Everything's looking good for Radiant until suddenly they turn. Right. And there we go. Now, the problem is you might be asking why didn't he just get out of there? That's a good question, but I can't answer that for you. I don't think they have a way to cancel his teleport if he rages. He probably felt it invincible, but eventually even the mighty fall. And of course Roshan spawns, and this is where the downfall begins. They take it. Got to push out. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. And this is what I was talking about the draft. This is the problem with the Naix matchup. I don't know why he was going for this in the time, but he jumps on you, and then what do? You have to man fight. This is why I think Halberd would have been nice. He wouldn't have even had the choice to kill that silence. Without Nags, Radiant's gonna fall apart here. Now Nags is gonna get forced to buy back. And then after the buyback, he beats them off again. And essentially the same thing repeats. These guys smoke while this Night Stalker's going in with his own smoke. Get an immediate pick off on your off lane. Lifestealer thinks he can do something, but realizes, oh shit, this is fucked. He may have been lucky and gotten a teleport out with the rage, but he went for the run. He ended up getting first bit bash anyways, and there you go. He dies again, and that's a good game.